Good morning, distinguished guests, admirals, faculty, staff. It is my sincere honor and privilege to introduce the team here. So we have Evan Tuareg, Clara Beckert, and Reed from the Coast Guard Academy. Double majors, all right, let me clarify, electrical, not double majors, MES majors and electrical engineering majors. And we actually just found out right before this presentation that the team, standing right in front of you, was actually selected to receive a Coast Guard-wide Innovation Award, actually stemming from the actual research. So they just found out the great news, and I'm incredibly proud of them, and I hope you enjoy the presentation. Thanks.
Good morning, Admiral Rendon. Is the dean in here? Distinguished guests, cadets, my name is Second Class Evan Tuareg.
I'm Second Class Reed Wieglund.
And Third Class Clara Beckert.
And we're here today to talk about the future of social media for disaster response in a post-Harvey Coast Guard. Now, last August, when Hurricane Harvey made landfall, it quickly became known as America's first social media storm. And since then, a lot of questions have come out of this. How can the Coast Guard continue to leverage this technology and further leverage this in future operations? And this is something we started taking a look at through a directed study this semester with Lieutenant Commander Clear, along with Lieutenant Verlinden, who can't be here today. In particular, we're working with Coast Guard Public Affairs. They seem to be our champion, and we just signed an IPT with them, or we're involved with an IPT with them, looking into how can we continue to work with this, looking to the future. 37,000 lives. That's the number of people the Coast Guard is credited with saving between our responses to Hurricanes Katrina and Harvey. That's a Fenway Park worth of people, and that's amazing. When you start to take a look at these responses, both storms are pretty similar in a number of ways. Both were major hurricanes that made landfall near major metropolitan areas that had poor evacuations. But if you start to compare these responses, there's one thing that changed them. It's these. Over the last 10 years, the way we communicate has fundamentally changed. Smartphones weren't around. Social media was still in its infancy. And when you fast forward 13 years to Hurricane Harvey, that has serious implications for the way this response pans out. These are the headlines that are playing out around the Coast Guard. Meanwhile, this is what we were saying. And I want you to take a second and close your eyes for me. I want you to picture something. You're a hurricane survivor trapped in a flooding Houston, and you've been forced onto the roof of your house. You're out in the pouring rain, and you've been on hold with 911 for 6 hours. And now your phone's at 7% battery. What are you going to do? I'd be willing to bet you're going to post to social media something like this. This is a story that played out thousands of times across the city of Houston. And as our team was watching this, we decided to do something. We activated the Digital Humanitarian Network. DHN is this collaborative network of expert volunteers from around the world. They're experts in collecting these 911 posts. They're experts in mapping. And we began working through a collaborative partnership with them to create maps just like this. And we're sending them across the Coast Guard to flood teams, helicopter pilots, even all the way up through the Commandant of the Coast Guard. These are being seen at all levels of the chain of command, and this is largely why it was such a successful response. I never realized how impactful this was until Reed came into the equation.
So what we got out of Hurricane Harvey were two distinct information streams that were people posting and people calling for help throughout the disaster. So maps behind me on your left are the calls that we got out of 911 to Coast Guard call centers. That's where they were getting through official reporting channels. And on the right, those are the posts that we got out of social media. Now, without doing any analysis, you can already start to see that there is a little bit of distinct difference between these maps. But when you actually subtract them from one another, the difference becomes that much more clear. So what we see is the light areas are where social media is far more prevalent than official reporting channels, and the green areas are where phone calls are far more prevalent than social media. So that's not to say that there weren't social media posts or there weren't phone calls in these other areas. It just means that one was much more prevalent than the other. This was the point in the project where we started to understand that we were looking at a little bit more than just the Coast Guard using social media in its response to stuff. So we started to push the idea forward. is where we started to understand that we were going to have to create some change in the Coast Guard to be able to make this happen. So that started, Evan gave a talk at TEDx at Yale, got that word out to people. Then we were invited to Coast Guard headquarters to be involved in a multi-directorate think tank, where we were directly involved with helping Coast Guard headquarters to understand what needed to happen with social media in the 21st century to be able to hold public trust, to be able to forward the use of this technology and using multiple data streams in order to save the lives of American citizens. So coming out of that, we knew that it was going to take a little bit more than just the 5 people on our team, so we started pushing for the Innovation Award. And we came and we asked the Corps, and you guys answered, and we were able to get that Innovation Award, like Commander Young-McClear said. So change in the Coast Guard and any large organization takes a lot of different levels. This is kind of where we started to get more than just social media use out of this project. We started to understand that for change to happen, people at the lowest levels, the ones, the boots on the ground, the people actually pulling citizens off of rooftops need to want and use the products that we're producing, and that's what we're getting. But then you have to have buy-in from the top. The people who are going to be able to forward these conversations are the ones that really made this project what it could be today, because it's not always easy being the one standing out front with an idea on your own, but the people at the top are the ones that made it possible for us to keep going.
So this project, while it was centered around social media, was never really about social media. This project was about the moral courage to leverage a new technology that the Coast Guard had never really seen before in order to save lives. And that was the true innovation in this. However, the only reason that this project was successful was that there was horizontal communication across all branches of our agency. Typically, we are a vertically run organization. Information flows up the chain of command and it flows back down. But the really special thing about this was that there was cross communication, and that was why I was able to succeed. Another really special thing was that there was this safety, a safety to propose an idea that was viewed kind of as something completely new and maybe a slight bit crazy, but it actually worked. And that needs to be a focus here, to be able to propose these ideas and say, hey, I know we've never done this before, but I think we can do this in order to save lives. And that is incredibly important. So that brings us to today. We have 28 days until June 1st, the beginning of hurricane season. And there is this public trust that we are going to be monitoring social media as an organization during this upcoming storm season. And coming off of our DC headquarters trip, we were asked by headquarters to propose a solution in order to use our team to monitor social media during the season. And this is our proposal. This digital humanitarian team. So we decided, instead of coming up with something entirely new, we were going to look to the past and take what worked during 2017 and make a few key changes and use that during this year. As well, this team is going to begin planning for 2019 and the years to follow. So up here, we have the flow of information that is going to happen during this upcoming storm season. As you can see, the digital humanitarian team serves to interface between the Coast Guard and these digital humanitarian societies. So what we're basically going to be doing is taking the raw data and putting it into a form that is easy to understand so it can be used on the ground level by the Coast Guard command centers. At the end of the day, this is what it's all about. This is why I joined the Coast Guard, and I know it's why a lot of us are here. We came here to save lives, and whether it's from a 911 call or from a social media post, all that matters is that that person there on the ground gets home safe and sound to their family at the end of the day.
Yeah, and definitely one of the highlights of this past year is watching as that 3-year-old girl who posted social media on that ventilator, we watched in real time as she was rescued. That was one of the most powerful moments of my life and something that will forever change the way I look at this world.
What's defined this project is the ability for Coast Guard cadets to bring change to the institution that we are, to effect positive change, to maintain public trust, to bring in multiple data streams that were not previously explored into the realm of possibility. This project and all of the other ones that you've seen this morning, they stand to bring the future into the present. Thank you.